Good morning, dreamers. How are you today? Do you like my hidden bookshelf? I like it. On my bookshelf hidden behind my television. Um, it's fun because I have to move my dehumidifier to get to it, but it feels like I'm going into a secret place. But of course, we have the Christmas stories by Dickens. And so the most famous one, there's obviously a lot. It's not just a Christmas Carol, but the most famous one is a Christmas Carol, and we've done Scrooge dirty. Okay, I just need to. There's like three or four of you that watch this, so it's not like we're gonna go viral on this, but we've done Scrooge dirty because we have taken Scrooge and we have made him the villain. And it's kind of like the John Stone um, book called The Monster at the end of this book with lovable for real Grover. Because when you get to the end of the book, spoiler alert, Grover is the monster at the end of the book. The only one here is me. I, lovable for real Grover, and the monster at the end of this book. And you were so scared. And so the original monster at the end of this book was Scrooge at the beginning of A Christmas Carol, and we've portrayed him in modern media as the monster. So here's the thing. When in the introduction in stave one, right, they talk about how was, Scrooge's name was Good upon exchange for anything he chose to put his hand to. That means Scrooge was honorable, Scrooge was a shrewd businessman, and you could trust him. What he said he was going to do, he was going to do. All right? So, other places in the book, we actually see, financially, we see Bob Cratchit, we see his income laid out. And if we were to do the math, we would find out that that income is actually a middle class income. It was not a pittance. And we see that Scrooge is like, oh, so you want Christmas Day off and I'm expected to pay for it. You don't get to lose any money for that. Well, in 2024, we're like, well, yeah, because we're so used to having at least one stat per month. Or if there's no stat, there's a civic in August when there's times when we're taking vacation anyway. And so, but back in Victorian England, holidays were for the rich, the people who could afford it. Holidays were not for the people who could not afford it. They were not statutory holidays. And so Scrooge is an honest businessman. Honest, he's ethical in that he is saying what he means and he will follow through with it. So if his interest rate is high and you sign the paper, he doesn't need to go back on his interest rate. It's like a credit card company, right? If I'm going to give you credit and I say my percentage is 25%, you've signed on that for whatever reason. And so there's the problem Dickens has with his redeemed hero, with his protagonist. And you can debate whether Scrooge is the protagonist or whether Cratchit is the protagonist, because Cratchit's kind of narrating the thing. But you can debate all you want. But here's the thing. Dickens, it wasn't about being a miser. Scrooge and miser are not equal to each other, but in today's modern language, they are. Dickens' issue is he's pointing out that you can be a shrewd man of business, but without generosity, it is as though it's a vapor in the wind. No one wants to be your friend. Dickens outlines that when he walks down the street, nobody says, hey, how you doing, Scrooge? Hey, Ebenezer, how's it? No, people don't do that because his life has become his quest for more. And his life has not been about the people around him. He has a nephew that loves him and wants to engage with him. And money's more important. He has people coming and asking him for donations for the poor. I don't need to do that. There are public services set up where I don't need to do that. Oh, they can get welfare. They don't need me. Why are they begging outside of Zehrs? Ugh. I'm not giving them any money. I'm going to give over here and I'm going to give over here. And I will just... But Scrooge was like, I'm not even going to give to the organizations that help them. Right? I agree that sometimes you don't give the actual cash to the person. Sometimes. If God's prompting you, you better do it because it's for him, not for the person that is in front of you. But when Marley, Joseph Marley comes up, okay, when his ghost comes, and he explains, you're going to be haunted, right? And he's like, he says, but he basically says, hey Marley, you were such a good man of business, right? And Marley, he's like, where is it here? He says, but mankind was my business. Mankind was my business. The air was filled with phantoms, wandering hither and thither in restless haste and moaning as they went. Every one of them wore chains like Marley's ghost. Some few, they might be guilty governments, were linked together. None were free. Many had been personally known to Scrooge in their life. He had been quite familiar with one old ghost in a white waistcoat with a monstrous iron safe attached to its ankle, who cried piteously at being unable to assist a wretched woman with an infant, whom it saw below upon a doorstep. The misery with them all was clearly that they sought to interfere for good in human matters, and had lost the power to do that forever. That is the entire thesis of A Christmas Carol. It's not that Scrooge is stingy. He's efficient. He doesn't like waste. But as far as a businessman goes, he put his business and his pursuit of more above humankind. And then these ghosts are going to show him the journey to that. He had family. He had joy. He had a horrible father, but he had the ability to stop the generational pain, the generational cycles, and he chose not to do it because money and things became his God. And the monster at the beginning of the book wasn't a monster because he was cruel and he wasn't paying Bob Cratchit. Bob Cratchit was a man who lived in the city with a whole bunch of children like you would on a farm, but the Industrial Revolution is about to explode people into cities, and we have a ton of medical bills that are not covered by OHIP, right? They're not covered by any kind of universal health care, and that's what takes his money. It's not Scrooge that doesn't give him the money. And Scrooge ends up giving him Christmas Day off because that is the turn in the time when people were like, yeah, we need Christmas off. We need to have a statutory holiday. And Scrooge, he actually led the way with that, even though he's grumpy in doing it. So let's look again at Scrooge. Because it's about having the quest for more without generosity. It wasn't the fact that he was a businessman. It was the fact that he was a businessman who didn't see the human side of this world. And we've got a lot of businessmen, business people, business women as well. Let's be equal across the board. Where the bottom line is more important than the humanity. And I know the bottom line is what allows some to survive. But we have to have the mix of humanity and generosity as well. That is the thesis of A Christmas Carol. And I hope you get that this season. It's not about how many presents are under the tree. It's not about stressing did each child have exactly the right number of nickels spent on them. It's not will they be happy because they have the newest technology. It's not about can I give my kids, something that will help them keep up with their friends. It's the humanity of it. Have I demonstrated to my children that that person begging outside of theirs is not going to have any Christmas at all? Am I going to be able to demonstrate to those around me that what's more important than how many gifts I wrap, I'm generous. Not just to my little crew here, but to the world around me, to those outside, to the people who sit in the pew next to me and I have no idea they're starving to death. They came to church because there's coffee and donuts. Are we generous? Because quite frankly, the philosophies found in A Christmas Story are the philosophies taught by Jesus throughout his entire ministry. Are we generous? Are we kind? There's nothing wrong with pursuit of things. So don't allow spirituality to say, oh my goodness, it's all holy, holy, holy. Yes, it is a holy time of our religious calendar. There's nothing wrong with the fun and the joy and the food and the silliness and the gifts and the unwrapping. What's wrong is when that does not come with a generous spirit. It's all about what will I look like on social media? Will my children be elevated because of what they receive? It's what will I look like is the problem. And that, my friend, if you cannot be generous, hospitable, and kind, that's when you're Scrooged. Feet on the ground, head in the clouds, and please know that I love you. Sorry this was a long one. Don't you wish you were in my English class once upon a time? Long, long ago. Have a great day. Bye.